Hey guys, Drifter here. Today I've got a deep dive preview of Ubisoft's new game, Scape. The gameplay that you're seeing right now is based on my playtime in the technical test, which was last week. The beta is going to be this week. Even in the technical test, the game was very stable. It looked good. I was able to get high frame rates. I think I recorded this in 60 because I was also streaming and I do single PC instead of double. I didn't want to bog it down too much. But for those of you that are just saying, oh, okay, this is a PC game, I'm out. It is coming to consoles soon. I don't know exactly when, but it's supposed to be coming to consoles eventually. Oh, and the gameplay you're seeing right now is from my very first fight in the technical test. I wanted to show you what it looked like to me when I was fresh and green and I had no idea what I was doing, and I was kind of getting the feel for this game, which is an experience I think a lot of you will go through as well after you install it, boot it up, and play it. And today's preview is sponsored by Ubisoft. So starting today, you can download this game for free on Uplay, which is Ubisoft's platform, because it just hit open beta for PC. It's coming to console again eventually, but today, open beta on PC. The beta has new weapons, such as the Harpy SMG, and a new hack, the Shockwave, which I was not able to do in the technical test because they weren't unlocked then. And interestingly, you can earn Battle Pass experience just by watching streamers play this on Twitch if you have the Twitch extension installed. And this Battle Pass has 30 items in it for free, which is very generous in my opinion. And the Twitch extension for this game is very interesting. You link the game in your account, and this is kind of pulling us back into the review part of this video, and it lets Twitch viewers control my game. Basically, my viewers on Twitch can vote for 4 or 5 different in-game events that do happen mid-game live, and they can hurt or help me. There's low gravity, which is usually hurting me because it just makes me float very slowly. It makes me a giant target. You have infinite ammo, which is kind of fun. I often use it to reload my guns and just kind of stack my ammo pool for when it's done. There's a health pack event, so there's health packs everywhere. You can heal up really easily. A reveal event where you see everybody on the map, and just a couple of other kind of little crazy things that the chat can vote on intermittently. It happens about once or twice per game, and I think that other people's chats that are streaming are also voting, so it's kind of this weird, like, it's a giant API. But anyway, it lets you control the game. It's complicated. And I think that stuff like this is probably going to be the future of gaming, because all of these integrations are designed around increasing watch time on Twitch, which pumps up the viewership numbers. It gives them more relevancy on the platform. Higher watch times of Twitch streamers will also foster community building. It'll foster Reddit communities. And generally speaking, just watching somebody play a game for a long period of time tends to make you want to play as well. So incentivizing viewers also incentivizes players, and I think this is very smart on Ubisoft's part, and I think you're going to see a lot of games doing exactly this in the future. I've rambled on for a while now. Let's change gears and talk about the game itself. Scape is a Battle Royale game that takes place inside of a virtual world not that different from the Oasis and Ready Player One. It's got a little bit of cyberpunk, future, synthwavy, like, you know, Daft Punk kind of vibes going on with it. I love the aesthetic. I think it looks really cool, and it also means that it's a blood-free, gore-free, offense-free kind of place, which is great for monetization on my end. And inside of this Battle Royale, you're competing primarily for clout, for fame, for followers, money, that kind of stuff. And there's no gas in the traditional sense, but rather the city that you're in is slowly becoming corrupted by a virus or just memory corruption, and it like digitally slowly erases the city, and if you're stuck in it, it starts erasing your avatar and killing you. There is an unusual crown event at the end of this Battle Royale where it's not simply the last man standing wins, but rather whoever holds the crown for the first 45 seconds will win the game. You have to pick it up and kind of run around with it and avoid everybody else. We'll do more on this later. Scape is a very fast-paced Quake or Unreal-like shooter with a big emphasis on 3D movement. The game has double jumps of considerable height and distance. You can jump just as far backwards, control yourself mid-air. You've got fast movement speed, a really long slide. You've got very quick mantling and a few movement-based abilities such as the slam, which is a big jump up and down, and the teleport, which does exactly that and just teleports you in one direction. Most of the weaponry is pretty standard for these types of games. Again, coming from Quake or Unreal, a lot of them will look very familiar. You've got 2 flavors of pistol. One is high damage, and you just have to be very precise with it. The other one's like a lock-on pistol, but low damage. You got a shotgun, a sniper rifle, assault rifle, which is underrated, minigun, very popular. You got a big rocket launcher, a little rocket launcher, flat cannon, a lot of these kind of guns that you've probably seen before if you've played Quake. The damage numbers seem overall balanced around the idea that fights should take a while, There's not a whole lot of weapons that will just allow you to instantly delete people. Maybe the shotgun or sniper rifle, depending on where you hit them in the range and stuff, or if you get a perfect shot. But in most instances, you're going to be fighting enemies that are moving and ducking in and out of buildings and jumping and flying, and you're not going to be able to get these perfect point-blank shots on people, so most of your fights will take a while. They're designed to feel like actual battles, which I personally kind of like because my original competitive game was Unreal Championship on Xbox Live, so I'm used to it taking like 5 minutes to kill one person. It feels really skillful, like a game of chess when you finally take them down. And by chess, I mean mid-air rocket fights. The majority of your game fights are going to be hyper-mobile jumping, mid-air wall climbing, projectile throwing. You're going to fling your rocket, then swap over to the assault rifle and get some peppering shots in and hope that you predicted where your rocket's going to hit them and blow them up, and then you finish them off with a headshot. You'll basically, by the time you're done fighting somebody, you're going to feel like a parkour king who happens to also be carrying a rocket launcher. This type of gameplay has 3 different skills that you need to master in order to be good at. Number 1 is the movement systems in the game, which I think are one of the best parts of the game. Number 2 is projectile predictions. You need to be able to kind of guess where people are going and lob your projectiles in that direction, because most of them are way too slow to just hit them if you aim where they're at now. And very fast-paced hit scan tracking, which is my absolute biggest weakness in games like this, is tracking things that move very, very fast and trying to get headshot. On top of this, you can also loot up to 2 quick abilities, which is by default Q and E on PC. These can be heals, armor, big jumps, a ball, scans, mines, throwing up a wall, all sorts of different stuff. Some are lethal, some have utility, some have vision. Generally, I preferred to have one that was more lethal and one that had some sort of utility or kind of ability that I could use to help out my team. The combat loop is by far the best part of this game. I can tell that Ubisoft Montreal wanted to make a 3D movement Quake-like game for the modern era, and if that's the design goal, then I think they nailed it. When I play Hyperscape, I feel fast, I feel lethal, my gunfights feel like they took a lot of skill. As a side note, that's a lot of skill that I don't have anymore. I used to be awesome at these kind of games, but after like a decade of COD, I am definitely rusty and not on my A game whatsoever. But I feel like my actions in every fight matter, from movement to aim to hit scan to whatever. I feel like I can reposition anywhere, anytime to make my fight better because of the movement system. And if you like these type of games, if you like big, bouncy, fast, long combat games, then you're going to love Hyperscape. It's going to be perfect. But if you don't like this kind of game, and I know that there are quite a few gamers out there like you that don't, or if you like the slower paced, more PUBG kind of stuff, or Siege, or Warzone, you may not be so on board with the craziness that is Hyperscape. But if you can get on board with the combat loop, I think you're going to be really happy with it because it's super good. The map itself, I'm pretty sure is from Assassin's Creed Unity, so it might look a little familiar, and it might as well be given the amount of mobility that it has just kind of baked into it. The map is very vertical in almost all places, very multi-layered, lots of places to get in and out of, hide in buildings, on top of buildings, tons of little ledges to mantle on, jump pads, just tons and tons of neat little spots for you to do hyper-mobile stuff, and I think that suits this type of game very well, especially with the verticality of the map. There's another thing that I think is very well done, which is the weapon upgrade system. Basically, you just pick up multiple of the same weapon to upgrade it, and that's up to level 4. It usually just gives you a magazine size increase or decreases reload time until you hit level 4. Level 4 weapons become gold, they get a different skin, and they tend to deal a little bit more damage or have a bigger splash radius or have some other kind of ability that's unlocked on them. And they tend not to be too OP at this level, such that you can still outskill and outkill players who have them if they're not using them effectively, but they are nice to have in your arsenal. Mostly, I just appreciate the simplicity of the system. Call of Duty has you running around trying to get supply drops. Freaking Blackout had attachments, PUBG is doing attachments, Fortnite and Apex Legends have you digging around looking for various versions of the gun and colored magazines and green this and gold that, but this one you just pick up more of the same. If you want a stronger pistol, just pick up 3 or 4 pistols. You want a stronger rocket launcher, just pick up 3 or 4 rocket launchers and smush them together. And a lot of times when you kill enemies, they'll have one of these weapons already, especially if you're picking the popular ones, so you can kind of like skip half your upgrade tree just by killing somebody, which I think is really good, really simple, and I am all about simplifying loot in Battle Royale games. I've been very positive so far, but now I want to talk about some things that I don't like about Hyperscape and some things that I think could use improvements before it goes into full launch. I personally feel that the ability spam is sometimes too strong and that the crown event itself also needs some work. When people get the abilities gold and that they've upgraded them 4 times because they work just like the weapons, their cooldowns are like 10 seconds or less, or in some cases I want to say around 5 seconds or less for different abilities. And that means that they have almost infinite amounts of super jumps, teleports, heals, armor, bouncy balls, just mines, whatever. It can be quite annoying. And you really can't compete with them sometimes if your cooldowns are too long. If you have sort of the basic abilities, sometimes they can just run circles around you, they can spam their abilities. They can make themselves much more difficult to deal with just by spamming an ability every 5 seconds, which I think makes the game less fun. The second thing that I don't like about Hyperscape ties into the first, and that's that I dislike the crown event, often because of the ability spam. So in this game, instead of being the last squad standing, you win by holding the crown for 45 seconds. In the final circle, no matter how many teams are left, a crown will spawn. You have to pick it up off the ground, put it on your head, and hold it and kind of play hide and seek or chase for 45 seconds, while every single other person on the map tries to kill you and take this crown. And this is a difficult task, honestly. Even with all of the mobility and everything, it is kind of difficult to survive, and I think it should be this way. And I think the idea behind it, and I totally agree with the devs on this one, is that the devs chose to do this because they didn't want camping in their Battle Royale, and they especially didn't want camping in the final circle where people should be fighting each other, but you have the opportunity to do that because so many buildings have interior areas. Well, putting the crown on the map forces players to make risky moves in order to win. They can't sit on the tallest building, they can't hide behind cover, they can't build a mine fortress in a corner and wait for you to come in. You have to get the crown, you have to take a risk, you have to play hide and seek, cops and robbers, whatever, and survive in order to win. And as a general idea, as a design goal, this is good. And it's kind of fun, except I think the abilities ruin it. The abilities that you need to win the crown chase are not the same ones that you need for most of the rest of the match. Crown winning abilities are all about movement or armor and maybe the bouncy balls, not heals though, because you have to stand in the heal thing and they'll just get, gang up on you on that one. But I ran into a couple of situations where I had a guy who had max level armor and max level ball, which also gives you some armor, grab the crown, and he would just stagger his 2 abilities so that the armor would be up while the ball was on cooldown. Well, now the armor's down, now he's in a ball. I break the ball, now the armor's off cooldown, and no matter how much I shot him, no matter how much I chased him, I just couldn't beat him no matter what, and it wasn't very fun at all for me. I didn't like that. I had similar events with some dude who had slam and teleport and would just zip all over the place. And it's frustrating because these aren't the abilities that you need in combo with each other to actually win the game. Well, they won the game with it, but you make it to the end, you kill people, you survive, you hunt, and you do really well. And then you need a totally different, using different abilities like scan, heal, super jump, teleport, and then at the end you need to change all these abilities to kind of win the crown race. And I'm just not super on board with that. I find it frustrating in a lot of cases. So I don't really like the crown event, as you can tell, but that's not really the only way to win. You can just kill all of the other teams if you want to do that. Nobody can pick up the crown when they're all dead, right? You'll just default the win to you, like a normal Battle Royale. But given the fact that the crown's going to pop up in the last circle and the amount of people that are likely to be alive, in all practical terms, it makes the most sense to get the crown, survive, and get the win that way versus going for the elimination, because somebody might sneak off with the crown while you're wiping the other teams. But I do get why they did it. One of the other things that I don't like is how they did the solos event. So the solos event has no crown. It's last man standing. And you're going to see gameplay of that starting now. I got second place in the solos games that I played. I never got first for whatever reason. But when you don't have an incentive to pick something up and go out and do something, it gets really campy really fast. And the final in-game strategy becomes get the heal or armor, get the mines, sit up in a building, and kind of bait people into your mines and blow them up. And that would be a lot less fun than chasing people around than the crown. So the solos event was a little bit weird as well. I kind of didn't like what they did with the visibility, and the color scheme of it was a little bit oppressive there for my eyes as well. But I missed being able to see my enemies at long range, and it changed the whole meta when they added the like orange haze or orange fog of, instead of having like assault rifles and good backup weapons, it was best just to have all close range stuff and explosives and just spam people in the face. So the solos mode I think needs a little bit of work. I think the crown mode needs some work. The abilities need some work, but for all the gripes I have about the game, they're mostly just balancing ideas and not so much fundamental concepts to the game. And that's why this is just a technical test. The developers have a ton of balancing to do before the final game launches. They actually just dropped a patch before the beta goes live, so the beta will be more balanced than this. The game has some elements that I find frustrating with the abilities in the crown and the solos, but the core concept of this game, the fundamental idea of it having a fantastic fast-paced 3D movement combat loop that feels like Quake and Apex had a baby, that I can bounce from rooftop to rooftop like a ninja or a parkour master and just, you know, snipe and then swap to my rocket launcher and do all this kind of fun future stuff. That core concept of this game is really good, and I really like that, and I think that's going to be the strength of this game moving forward through the future. So I'm cautiously optimistic about the future of this game. I hope that it does well. It could have legs. It should have legs. And I think if they get that ability balance just right, that the game will definitely have legs. Well, I hope you enjoyed this preview that was sponsored by Ubisoft. Once again, wanted to say thank you to Ubisoft for making this video possible, and encourage you to click the link down there below in the description to play for free today. Guys, that is all for this video. I hope that you enjoyed it. I hope you learned something useful. If you did, don't forget to like, favorite, and